G'day viewers, my name's Graham Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do.
Well, hi folks. Well, we are in Canberra for this shoot and with a very special lady and a woman that's become a good friend of mine over the last 12 months and somebody that's actually helped us to get down to Canberra to put all of these fantastic Canberra artists together. I'd like to introduce you to Carolyn Deeble. Carolyn?
So fantastic to have you here.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Carolyn's just gone out of her way, stepped right outside the box to be able to get the Colour in Your Life team down here to put all these fantastic artists together. Pretty much of a great identity as far as the Canberra art scene is concerned anyway. And you've been involved in so many situations as far as talking and teaching, and you do so many different things. A great influence for you was your dad, who was a cinematographer, filmmaker and writer.
My whole life has been a creative field, and he was the first inspiration to living your dream and following what you love, and the beautiful natural world that he introduces to always, yes.
That's fantastic. And you become recognised, I mean, people call you the rock artist, but a lot of the stuff that you do is involved with nature, beautiful coral reefs, water. You love water, you've got
Absolutely.
a real relationship with water. And as I said, it involved in so many other aspects of the Canberra art scene, it's just sort of quite amazing. But we'll actually talk about that as we go through today.
Sure.
Carolyn is going to go through and do one of her watercolour water scenes for us with the rocks. They really are quite fascinating pictures as well. And we're going to follow through with her and then obviously ask a lot of other questions about her history and what she's done. But I'm going to step out shot, as I normally do, and let Caroline take over. She's a fantastic teacher, got one of the best studios you've ever seen in your life. I mean, she's got the biggest fish tank in the world in here, so you'll never get bored or lonely, I can see that much.
I'm a truly lucky girl.
It's fantastic. But I'm going to step out of shot and I'm going to let Caroline take over, and we're going to talk to her about what she does in Canberra and her fantastic art as well. All right, Carolyn, well, you've got a fantastic range of paints and paper and brushes there. You take all your own photographs as well for your work?
I do. I've got a background working with young people in education, and a part of that background is that I needed to know a lot of different types of mediums, photography being one, digital photography another, and how important is it to record your work as you go. You never know where that painting's going to end up, you never know who's going to own it, you never know the commercial interest that may be taken in your painting, and if you don't have the images, you actually don't have that opportunity to take the I suppose those chances further and take your art into a bigger level.
Absolutely, and after doing this for 30 years, I mean, your partner Michael has been an absolute inspiration and the best support you could ever have.
Yes, absolutely. We are the yin and the yang. You know, he just provides the most amazing environment for me to be in, and he allows me to live my dream of being a full-time artist.
And also created the best studio that you could ever possibly imagine.
I have the best studio. I have an enormous space, I have beautiful light, lots of glass, and I have this fantastic fish tank, which is actually my husband's hobby. So we share the space together in different ways in our different creative minds. Okay, well, watercolour, you know, when you are learning about watercolour, it's actually a very, very difficult medium. It's something that is unforgiving. You only get so many attempts to make it work, and different styles you can attempt to paint over, repair and otherwise, but you're better off planning really well from the start. But my rock art is actually quite abstract to start with, and as I develop the picture it becomes quite tight. And it sort of suits a bit of my personality because I like this looseness and this free-flowing idea, and then I've got to take control, and the whole idea of these kinds of works actually shows a lot about my personality as well. But I tend to have a lot of colours in my palettes all the time because I teach watercolour in my studio, so my palettes are always fully loaded for my students. But I help to freshen the palettes and the centres by cleaning those lovely muds onto my page and literally throwing some wonderful colour around my pages. So in doing so, I'm just showing you that simple freedom. Let's just loosen up and let's not expect too much of our painting to start with. Let it build itself, let the watercolour do its own magic.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you've, particularly on the educational side, I mean, you've helped to teach kids at school, covering a number of different meetings, printmaking, graphic, sculpture and ceramics, and you've also got a diploma in multimedia from the ANU. So, I mean, that's your whole educational background and everything you've done is really quite impressive under any circumstances.
So I now start to plan, I suppose, the composition of where I'm going to place the rocks. And they're just simple, and I'm quite spontaneous about how I do it, and try and give a feeling of direction of how I'm going to look across the water. It's not overthought. I just need to have nice, simple rock shapes. But as I develop the work, they will become more structured in the painting. And one of the brushes I've fallen in love with was through an opportunity I had was doing a workshop with Alvaro Castanet. As a watercolour artist, you love all sorts of different types of watercolour. His is a particular style I do really enjoy and have a wonderful opportunity to have done a course with him.
Yes, one of the leading watercolour artists in the world.
He is. Oh, amazing. So when I've gone through certain levels of the composition, I get to the point now that I have to start planning the different layers within the composition. So I'm going to start laying in some idea of these beautiful floating leaves that are going to be in my work. And one of the wonderful little tricks that I use is a boring old kitchen skewer. Very hard to paint really fine veins. And what I do is I actually damage the paper whilst it's wet. And the pigment itself runs into the fibre of the damaged paper, and it creates this wonderful little very, very fine vein on the leaf. You've always damaged the paper, you can never repair that bit, so the leaf will always be there in your work. So again, you've got to do it whilst the paper is actually wet, otherwise it doesn't damage the paper. We'll bring it through together. The other thing whilst it's wet is I might want to dance the leaves up with a little bit more colour, and whilst it's wet, if I drop in a few other little colours, we'll have that wonderful, wonderful natural dispersion in the wet area. I've attempted to make a series of these paintings for you for the show because they're very, very time consuming and all these details can't be done instantly for you. So I'm just taking you through a few stages as we go. So what we might do now is move on to the next piece of art that I've pre-prepared for you so we can see an ongoing stage, because as I said, there's many, many layers in this work and I possibly couldn't do all those layers in just a few hours today. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Okay, so as I said, we've moved a little bit further on. I've just started blocking in some of the lower, deeper parts of my rock pool. And I'm just basically creating a shadow area so I can see the layers of depth in the water itself. And they will get deeper and deeper by the quantity of washes that I add to the picture. This is just to give me a guideline as to where I'm heading.
As I said, your work is just so diverse, but the thing that stands out most of all is your water and rock and ocean paintings.
I don't know why, these rocks just keep bringing me back. They are just something that continues to develop. Every one of them is unique. Every one of them has a life of their own, and sometimes they're high mountain streams, sometimes they're low coastal streams, also perhaps different continent even with a bit of travel that I often enjoy. And one thing I always do is photograph the rocks on the riverbeds as I wander through different spaces that I get to visit. So what I'm doing with the work at the moment, I'm taking the lower zones which I blocked in earlier, and I'm actually adding more story to those. And I'm just allowing literally that negative space in between the rocks to have a little bit more depth. So I'm adding more rocks. And as we get deeper and deeper, the rocks get smaller as perspective, changes. And a little bit like life, the big guys sit on the top and they crunch and grind and crunch and grind, and everybody underneath gets smaller and smaller and more minuscule. And these rock and riverbeds often represent that simple term. So I'm painting the little people at the moment.
Well, I think when you look at your work, the thing that's fascinating is that you've got the leaves, but you've got the shadows of the leaves bumping along the bottom of the picture as well, which gives you the depth of field that
Absolutely. One of the things by putting the drop shadows in different zones, you actually create the depth of the water. If I was to, say I'll just put a shadow in while we're speaking now on this work, because it's a work of a style to show you the progress of one of my rock paintings. If I was to paint the shadow right really close to the leaf itself, as I've just done there, the water's really, really shallow because the shadow is so close. However, if I take the same and I actually separate the shadow from the actual leaf, I'm following that leaf form in my mind. I'm painting in one spot and looking in the other spot. And by simply separating the shadow from its form, you suddenly create a depth in your water. That's something to think about when you're placing your shadows in your sunlight and those sort of things.
You've done a piece called Ocean Blooms, which is of jellyfish. But
love my jellyfish.
It is really sort of quite three-dimensional. Now you've got a piece called Eagle Rays, which is actually behind you.
Yes, the large one.
We've got a picture of that at the moment. That's sort of different to what you've done, but then again it shows the diversity of your ability as well. It
has genuinely been one of my family's favourites, and it hangs in my home as one of our favourite pieces that we enjoy because it reminds us of our wonderful travels. All right, so I've taken this painting into showing you a little bit more depth in it. So what I'm going to do is go back towards another piece that I've prepared to take you in a new direction of how else I achieve these multi-layered, beautiful river creeks.
Fantastic.
With all my rocks. Okay, so we've got another one that's in development to take you a little bit further into the story of how these artworks are created. So I'm going to start actually looking at where my shadows are. So I'm thinking about the colours that I might use, and I'm thinking I want a little bit of warmth to some of my rocks. So I'm going to actually start making a decision. If I have my light source coming down this way, I'm going to actually put some dark areas to start creating and giving a little bit more 3D to my rocks. And the beauty of watercolour is that you're bringing those shadows in to a wet area, and you can basically dissipate them out to almost nothing. So you're starting to get a 3D form right in front of your eyes. And the more you add more 3D into the form, the more you start seeing this whole little creek bed.
You've got some really iridescent colours that come through on some of your pieces. There's one that we're just showing now called Ripples, and that's just electric, and I love the formation and the composition of and the geometry within that piece. I think it's amazing. And you've got another one here called River of Gold, and it's actually gold leaf, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Being an artist that's worked in education for so many years, I've got to play with so many hundreds of mediums and different techniques. When you're working with young people and you're inspiring them to be a bit more challenging and step outside of the norm, to explore many different mediums is a great way. But adding things to your work to make them uniquely yours.
Now you've got some other pieces as well, and you actually do some licensing with what you do, and that's a piece called Solitude, which has actually been on a number of different garments, but you also do a number of other soft goods and other goods that your work is actually on. It's just another another way to regain some money.
And anything from interior design products to clothing that we wear all have a fascination to say, well, who was the artist? Who did that? Are they getting recognised? That sort of thing. So being an artist and having access to things like Redbubble and other print-on-demand style services, you actually these days can be the designer of those products, and you can actually have it out there in the market. So I have quite a bit of interest from people that like to take, say, some of my rock work and think, oh, that'd make a fantastic doona cover, or that would make fantastic cushion covers for my room. So they can buy a beautiful piece of art and they can complement that art with other decorative items in their home. So thanks to this print on demand in the modern day, that we can have those sort of things in our world. So I'm going to go back to my lovely big Neef mop brush because I want to flood my painting with some blue colours. And then looking at all my palettes around me, because I have the benefit of lots and lots of palettes, I can actually start playing around with making myself a nice puddle of a lovely wash in an aqua. So coming into my work, I can make some decisions to leave some rocks above the water, and then other rocks I want to actually put under the water. And so I'm making those decisions as I come around the painting. And you can see I've suddenly got water in my work. It's no longer a dry creek bed with just rocks. It's now actually got something of a liquid filter coming into the scene.
It was just a little while back that you did a show with a musician, and it was called Visual Sound, and the musician was Kieran Roberts, and you actually had QR codes on mobile telephone so that people could come along, scan the QR code and actually listen to the music in relationship to the painting. That's a very interesting concept.
Absolutely, absolutely. The opportunity to work with a master musician like Kieran has been fantastic. At the exhibition, we had it set up in such a way that the viewers, they could travel around the exhibition at their own pace and connect with the art and the paintings and the music all at the same time. We also gave the added name, the artist and the composer, a wonderful, unique thing that we got to do together and we'll do again in the future and have done in the past.
Fantastic. And if anybody would like to hear Kieran's music, they can go to the link at the bottom. So go on and have a look at what he's doing. So the reason that we're down here, and very grateful to you, Carolyn, is the fact that you put Colour in Canberra together to get us down here, which I think was just fantastic. It really was. And we've filmed some just wonderful people, sculptors and artists. But yeah, we've been speaking to each other for about a year, but Colour in Canberra hopefully is going to be the start of lots of great things that we can do together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you put a fantastic show together at Regatta Point and some brilliantly amazing people, but it's a real inspiration for you to be able to do what you've done. It's amazing. I think that this series will illuminate the rest of the world on how beautiful Canberra is and how much talent's actually here.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful city. It's very inspiring to paint in. So what I'd like to do at this moment is to thank all the other artists for coming on board with this project, because it was a vision that I had and they were very excited to share it with me and take this opportunity and take it on their own journey, but also together as a group we've taken it on a journey as well. So hopefully more artists in Canberra will become a part of our Colour in Canberra team as well.
Well done.
Absolutely.
And Caroline, you've won a number of national and international awards over the years, quite extensively in fact, and a lot of the work that you do is commissions. People come to you and they just say, look, we love what you're doing, and you've literally had commissions on a global basis, which is amazing.
Absolutely. I think when people come to know and come to love what you do, you link with them emotionally, and that emotional connection brings a desire for them to be a part of your world. And as an artist, how they become a part of your world is that they buy your art. And sometimes what you've got is not quite what they're looking for, but they want to have a piece of you in their world. And so the commissions are born from that circumstance. Okay, so we've come so far with this painting, and as I said, because they're quite detailed works, they take a long time to paint. I painted a series of different styles like this in different stages of completion. So we're going to move to a later stage, much further along, and we're going to just do some final touch-ups and you might be able to see a nearly finished piece. So we've moved along to a piece that's much further down the track in one of my rock art paintings. This one we're nearly finished, but I'm just finding and tickling little areas within the artwork. Just trying to find a little bit more 3D in my rockscape. And by putting a little bit more depth in some of the areas around the rocks, I'm creating a little bit more deeper water, something else to take your mind further into the painting. One of the things I do besides paint for myself is I actually encourage other people to paint.
Yeah, and in saying that, you have really successful workshops. You have them here at your studio at the Lake House.
Yes.
which is an absolutely gorgeous spot, but you do that in a number of different areas as well. So if somebody actually wants to come along and be part of your workshops, what is your website, Caroline?
My website's carolinedeeble.com. Nice and simple.
Yeah, nice, easy one. And she's a fantastic teacher as well. So anybody in the Canberra area or the outer lining area, come along and see this lady. You'll have a great time and you'll learn a lot as well.
Fantastic. It'd be great if you could join me in the studio. We have lots and lots of fun. Daytime and evening classes as well. So one of the things that's different between this piece of art and the previous piece, you might notice that the rocks, although we put in our three-dimensional shadowing, these ones actually in some cases have a cast shadow. I put the cast shadow of the leaves through the painting, which allows the perception of a depth of water because the shadow is separate from the actual leaf. Some of them rocks themselves feel like they're floating as well. We need to ground them, and those contrasting shadows helps us actually ground them into the painting. So I can take a shadow and add it to the edge of a rock, and suddenly, one, the weight of the rock becomes heavier, and you feel that power, you know, in the paintbrush, that you can actually, we've dropped the rock, we've actually pulled it down into the painting simply by putting the shadow. So these are the little tickle and touch up things that we do at the end of a painting. Sometimes I do it while I'm painting on my last painting. Sometimes I let it sit for a few days and I revisit it, watch it, and then allow those little moments of where I felt change is required to come back in and add the shadows. Okay, so I'm just about there with what I can complete today. As I said originally, these are quite complex works and take many, many hours to complete. So we'll finish up there.
Thank you, Caroline. It's been just amazing to watch what you do. Really impressive. Okay, well, Caroline, I've really got to thank you for putting everything together, for getting us down here, and actually putting in Colour in Canberra. Caroline's actually put out a small book, which is fantastic. It's got everybody in there that was actually involved in this trip and everything that you've done. And also what you do, I think this is fantastic, at the end of every year, Caroline puts together a book about all of the people that she has actually taught through the year. They're really, really amazing. I think it's a fantastic idea to do that. But really well done. Now, your website address, so people can come in and say hello to you and see what you're up to, is
carolinedeeble.com.
Very pretty simple. And also you can come and see us at colourinayourlife.com.au and all of our other social network platforms as well. We've had a great time. It's been wonderful in Canberra. It's a great city, it really is. Fantastic people. We hope to get back here on an annual basis if we can, and then hopefully work a little closer with Caroline as we go along. But really enjoyed the trip. But as we always say, until we meet again next time, make sure you put some Canberra in your life this time. Thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye now. Bye.